Hello, everyone. This is Henry Schneider with the Business Performance Podcast, and today I'm talking with Steven Mih from Alluxio, who is their new CEO. He's been there 7 months, so welcome, Steven.
Thanks. Good to be here, Henry.
Okay, so could you please briefly describe Alluxio, your types of customers, and your products and services?
Yes, sure. So Luxio is an open source data orchestration software company, and we provide it to enterprises of all sizes that are being more data driven. And they need more data, and so we help orchestrate that data from different storage systems and make that data available on demand.
Ah, okay. So you're going out in there and pulling data from all over to get to support your customers.
That's right. Data is now much more, it's located in different areas. It's no longer just in one server room or one data center. It's now in clouds. There could be third-party data also. And so these are all stuck in what we call storage silos. And with Alluxio, it's a software system that you can mount those storage silos, and it'll pull the relevant data, because not all your storage matters, just like your hard drive. You got a lot of stuff on your hard drive, only a small percentage you actually use, which is probably your home folder.
Yeah. So what do you do about data security then? Because that's the big issue today.
That's absolutely right. So there's a number of paradigms in place. There's something called Kerberos, authentication. All those are all inherited with our system.
Oh, okay. All right. So when it comes to talking with your clients, what do they care about the quality that you provide?
Yeah, so I'll first talk about it on an operational level, and then I'll talk about it and from a performance perspective after that. So our system is a distributed system that fits within layers. So it's within the layer of storage underneath, and then above it are your AI and analytics applications. So they make workloads, things like common frameworks are using Spark or TensorFlow or Hive, Presto. And so the thing to note is that our software is in between that, and so they have to make sure that our distributed system runs really well, has high availability, and it integrates with the things above it and the things below it. Now, from a performance perspective, what it does is it makes sure that the data in the storage systems are now brought to those applications much, much faster. And we need to achieve anywhere from 3 to 10x faster performance without Alluxio. And what that drives is their data-driven insights that they get by being able to have that data accessible and highly available. Okay,
so what are the limitations, or I guess maybe it is the limitations on your ability to reach that 10x speed enhancement? Is that just the bandwidth of the pipeline that you're looking at?
In fact, because we work a lot with remote data, because of the latency across like the internet, over a VPN or even a circuit, those things, because of physics, right, they're going to be further away. And we improve the performance because by using Alluxio, it'll cache the data closer to those applications or with those applications. So that's one of the key ways we address the performance. And then even in a case where the data is local to the applications, sometimes the storage systems can get overloaded. And so therefore they're saturated, the same data is being requested from multiple places, and Alluxio software helps bring that and makes that much higher consistent performance happen.
Okay, so how does 5G, how is that going to impact you?
Yeah, that's all part of the network. Most of our customers use either a data center or they use the cloud and combinations of clouds. And so we don't deal with the mobile side as much. Okay. We're more in the area of data centers and cloud.
Okay. All right. So then you are again limited by the pipe.
To the extent that there's a connection between those, that's the case. Now, mobile is a factor in that 5G, brings will be an explosion of data. There'll be much more data coming from your phone to either the cloud or within many businesses. I'm sure a lot of the business people that are on this listening to this podcast are dealing with a deluge of data, and
Yes.
5G will probably increase that by 10 or 100x.
Yeah.
And now it's no longer about getting data; it's sifting out what's the important data that you can get insight from, and that's what we help with.
Yeah, that's going to be what I call like open mouth insert fire hose.
Yes. The Twitter data stream was actually called a fire hose when you plugged into it. So that's right.
Okay, so when you're talking to your customers, and what are two of the biggest misconceptions out there when it comes to quality and performance dealing with managing data?
Yeah. So for them, they find that they may not be able to access the data. So there might be data in different places that they can't get access to. So it's a big problem that they have. And so what they do today is they tend to just try to copy the data and then make another copy of it. It's kind of like when you used to have a backup of your laptop hard drive, and you'd have another one, and it would get dusty on your desk, right? And so you may have these different, we call them silos of data, and they're all somewhat similar, a little bit different. Maintaining all those copies becomes a big problem. And so our approach is to make it so that the data is available without having to make as many copies.
Okay. So do you do then data integrity checking to make certain that you're not sucking in garbage and trying to analyze garbage?
They do normalize the data. Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what are some of the common fears out there that people are facing when they're trying to address these issues?
Yeah, I think there's a big shift toward not being, when you talk about fear, businesses don't want to be disrupted by another business.
Right.
And so there's a lot of fear around like AI, machine learning, these things. If you don't get that type of technology in, then you'll be behind. And if you don't understand and leverage the data that you have, then you'll be behind. So I think that's the top level fear that every business has. And so that's something which then, as you take a step down, it's well, how do you then get the people who are going to synthesize that data, come up with insights? How do you get them that data from your operational side? And that's and your operations might now be spread across data centers, across clouds, and how do you make that available? So those are some of the high level fears, and of course security is a fear associated with that if I start to use the data in different places with different people.
Sure. So is there any fear about just the what the AI is actually doing? I mean, as a consumer, you're going to say, how do you know that about me? that sort of thing.
Yeah, we tend to deal in the world of ML, and people are viewing. So we have quant hedge funds that use our software with their ML algorithms, and so I think that that is a view that it's better doing that than with people.
Sure.
And I think that everyone needs to stay at the cutting edge, and so everyone's trying to adopt that type of thing. AI, I don't get into AI as much.
Okay. All right. Excuse me. So how do you get your customers over the hump of those fears about not having AI and being able to stay on the cutting edge?
Yeah. So for us, it's more about we help them understand that it's not about so those applications are very data hungry, and so if they are going in that direction, then they need a system that brings a lot of data so they can feed it. The more your models are now running on more data, the better the model will be. So then you have a better outcome than a better model than if you didn't have all the data. So those are the things that we tend to talk about. Same is true for advanced analytics. You need to have the analytics on the right data, and so we want to make that available. And a lot of it is spread out in different places, and so that's how I'd say we overcome some of those fears.
Okay, so if I'm a businessman and I first come to you and say, I want you to start doing this, how long does it take to train the model so I feel comfortable that you're actually delivering what I need?
So it depends on how complex the model is. What we've seen is that there's some business there's models that can take months and months to train,
Mm-hmm.
and so then using an Alluxio system, we can make it speed up to weeks of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the benefit there.
Okay.
We have another side where there's just basic advanced, I'll say, basic analytics. So it's more about interactive analytics to understand what's happening to my business. Are my customers falling off? Are they increasing? What are they buying? What can I shift from a marketing mix and all those things? And that's again an area where you want that to be as interactive as possible as you query your own data sets. And so we help in that way too.
Okay. All right. So I guess let's talk up here. So can you share a story of how you've helped a specific customer get over these obstacles that would be successful?
Yeah. So we're working with a very large e-tailer, and they wanted to have more data-driven insights. So and they found that to get access to the data, that it was taking more than a few minutes. And so then if you can imagine working with a computer and your analysts are trying to do iterative exploration, that ended up being, all their visualizations were very, very slow. And so they're just hamstrung with that, and they needed to access more data. By then bringing Alluxio to the mix, then they could have a very sub 10 seconds. And if things are now moving at 10 seconds, then guess what? You can get access to lots of data as it and work with it. So we're an infrastructure component that speeds up all of that part, and it lets you access different sources of data.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were to distill that down to a moral, what would be the moral of the story?
Mm-hmm. The moral is, I think it's true of ease of use and I guess to say like iterations and being more agile. When you give people the data and you're able to provide them that in a fast and easy way, suddenly that becomes very useful. And that's true of why computer systems in general, if you want to get faster and faster machines, well, you can do much more with them. And the usage of them start to become much higher. And so that is the two, they're kind of go hand in hand. As a system is easier to use, then you get a lot more of it. Just take a few examples, like it used to be your iPad or your iPhone now has music on it. Well, it had only your catalog, and you listened to a lot more music than you did before during the Walkman time, right? Yeah. Then it's things like streaming music services. Well, they have the whole catalog. That's very easy. Push a button and you listen to even more music than you did before when you had a CD player, right?
Yeah.
So, the same is true for ride-hailing services. I didn't use that many taxis before, but now I use it a lot more because it's so convenient and it's so available to you not to call a dispatcher and wait for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know. That's the convenience of like Uber and Lyft. I mean, you can get it real fast. Taxis, you could wait for hours.
Convenience is a big, has a huge value prop. That's right.
So when you work with a company like that to get them to achieve success, what are some of the pitfalls or mistakes that you need to keep in mind so you don't keep repeating history?
Yeah, so I think that the market is always changing, and being aware of how that's changing, how people buy is a big factor. So some of the pitfalls is kind of sticking to what was working before and assume that will just continue to work. Now that'd be great if it does, but oftentimes the world is changing pretty fast, and that's increasing faster. So an example is we used to do very top-down enterprise sales approaches, and that would be more evangelical types of ways of going to an executive, telling a big story about how they could change with our solution, and then go through a long evaluation cycle, find a small place to use it, and then do a long negotiation.
Mm.
So that was the way before, but that changed probably 5 years ago as the cloud came forward and as SaaS systems came out for software. And so it flipped 180 degrees. Now, most of the decisions are happening at a much lower level, at the individual level or a team level. And that's been proven out as hugely successful. There are still companies that do top down, and that's fine, but it just depends on who your market is, and you can't assume it's going to be like that.
Okay. So looking at your website, I think it says that Luxio offers open source.
Yeah.
So how do you make money with open source?
Yeah, so I've been in a number of open source companies, and Alluxio is we're proud to be an Apache 2.0 open sourced software. We want people to just download it, install it in their data centers in the cloud, and through using it, they get to know about what Alluxio can do for them. And there's some companies that find a small amount of value from it, and they might use it in a smaller use case, and that's absolutely fine. They got some value, and they didn't have to ask anyone. They could just go ahead and deploy and use it. There's some that use it for increasing value, and those ones will then come and call us up and want to know more about what we offer. And so it's really a very, it's part of the funnel, and helps with our go-to-market tremendously. Now, there are customers that start with we have an open core model, so we have enterprise features that we added to the open source, and that's called the Enterprise Edition, and we provide a subscription to that software.
Ah, okay.
So then we can work with companies that want that. So that's how it works.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the advice you give now when you talk to companies. What are you telling them when you're trying to work with them so they can integrate Luxio into what they're doing?
Yeah, so when we work with companies, we try to understand their pain, right? It all starts to generate customers, you have to speak to them and their pain. And what we find is that the big data ecosystem, specifically around things like the Hadoop ecosystem, these were very complex distributed systems that have a lot of data in them. And that is now being disrupted by the movement to the cloud. However, those companies still have a lot of data there, and they can't necessarily migrate it easily. And so with Alluxio, if you want to run more data-driven applications on them, then Alluxio helps them do that with the cloud and on the data that's on-prem without necessarily migrating it. When they are ready to migrate, then Alluxio helps with that too. And you can mount a cloud storage, and it'll help with that also. So that's how we talk about the problems that they have. They typically have a complex on-prem big data system. They tend to want to run more and more data-driven applications, which means you have to grow that further. And many don't have the budget for that, and that capacity is out of capacity, so they have to tell their users to wait. We tend to find that situation, and then from there help them leverage the cloud to burst workloads as well.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about your back history for a few moments. So what defining moment occurred during your life that led you to be where you are today as a CEO of Alluxio?
Yeah, I'd say that I grew up, my parents were immigrants, and growing up they had their day jobs, but they also had a family business. And so they involved, I have two older sisters, they involved all of us in that. So by the time I was 12, they were having me answer phones after I got home from school. So that was my job from 3 to 6. I'd come home, and as the phone was ringing, well, first I'd get there, check the answering machine and see who called in, and write down all the messages. So my mom would follow up, but I had the inbound calls after that. And so, family business types of, classified ads, stuff like that, they'd call up, and then I had a sheet of paper, I'd answer them. So I got very comfortable talking to people doing that. And then it evolved from 12 moving forward, starting to deal with more people. And that was a big factor. A lot of this is being of service to others and helping them get information so they can make decisions. So that started me on although I did a technical degree, then I ended up being in technical sales, and then grew through the sales ranks, and selling is a key part of running any type of business.
Sure. So I can imagine at age 12, you probably were not real comfortable the first time you got on the telephone and had to talk to somebody.
It's funny because I have to make sure I pick up that. The first thing I learned is that if I don't pick up that phone in like 4 or 5 rings, then they're probably going to go away. So I have a thing. Anytime I hear a phone ring, I count how many rings it is. That's what I learned from those days. And then pick up the phone, and I'm sure I sounded like, who is this person? And here's this kid coming on, but they want to know what types of we were in real estate, so what the prices were available, right? Is that available? I saw an ad on the classifieds, so I look on my chart and say, okay, that's this, and they say, how much is the rent? I can tell them, right? And answer a question and say, I don't know, and that was a good one. Telling them what I don't know and being okay with that.
Yeah, and actually that shows you're vulnerable, but it's actually a good way to break the ice and talk to people, because they say, okay, but I'll find out for you.
It's all about the follow-up, right? I think that's a big factor. It's surprising how many people say they'll do something they don't. It's a much larger number than usual. It's not because they don't mean to, it's just that they're busy. Yeah. And so customer service, following up and helping people and listening is all, I think, the biggest factors in my career has been that.
Okay. So you probably did kind of addressing this, but can you share an experience you had early on in life that influences the way you conduct business today?
Yeah, maybe I'll continue on the theme of listening to what people are saying, right? Back then, if people aren't deciding to move in, well, there's an issue, right? There's something that is out of the market, and I think that's still true in the way I operate today. Is that listening to customers and what they're saying and not saying. The market's always speaking to you. Mm-hmm. And the question is whether or not you're listening to it.
Right.
So that is a big factor. And as the person running the business, it's our role to make sure that we're assessing and trying to understand that, and making very rapid changes based on that to try to help with finding the best growth path. Okay.
So you've had a long career, lots of different interesting jobs. So what does success look like for Steven Mih today?
Yeah, success is, in terms of my career, I've run startup companies. I grow them, and I find that that's really satisfying, working with team members, and I do a lot of coaching, a lot of communication, and try to deliver value to customers. So I think that's been consistent through my career, but as I've taken on more and more senior roles, that's what it looks like, and I really enjoy this type of work, and being responsible, and then making, working with a team to make great decisions, and then winning a market, and that's the fun part of what I like doing.
Okay. So being now at Alluxio for like 7 months, are there some measurable outcomes that you've achieved that you can share with us?
Yeah, so the company has been making tremendous progress. We're seeing the number of customers come on board just increase much faster. I think that's a key metric is how many logos you have or are using your software. We've made some big milestone releases, and as quality is really critical, we've seen those releases go out and be received extremely well. So we did a big 2.0 release. It was in July, and so that's stuff that I'm really proud of the team doing, and we have a lot of quality processes in place, full CI/CD flows and all those things, huge test infrastructure that we run on Amazon and other cloud providers. And so that's the kind of stuff that we've achieved. So I'm really thrilled about the progress that we're making, and the market for having more data-driven insight and having data for that is the part that I'm excited about.
Yeah, that's great. And from all the research that I've seen is that, we're on the bleeding edge, that we're going to, AI is going to just go skyrocket in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, that's right. What we see is that there was an era of what is known as big data, and that was really around something called the Hadoop ecosystem. And that started in the 2005 timeframe, and a decade has passed. Now we're in the decade of really advanced analytics and AI, and that's going to be run on a lot of data sources, and those will no longer be in data centers. They'll be in many different places. And so that represents a huge growth, and every company is going to be moving in that direction if they haven't already.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people playing in the space, and a lot more waiting to get into this because of the projected growth. So what distinguishes Alluxio from the competition?
Yeah, the unique part is we're not like a visualization system. We're not a application engine like something called TensorFlow is like an application engine, and we're not a storage. So this is a brand new layer that we are bringing in. We call that data orchestration, and that takes all the storage and it makes sense of it and brings it to those applications. So we do think that the data ecosystem is massive. There's you can go through any of the landscape slides, and it's literally like an eye chart. It's got hundreds and hundreds of logos on them, and so we're the one that abstracts the storage there, and we're the one that then makes that sped up. So it's a very unique approach, differentiated. That came out of the UC Berkeley Amp Lab, and our founder and CTO, his PhD research was about this, and it came out of the lab that created Spark, as well as Mesos and this project. So Spark was for analytics, Mesos was containers, and this project is for data. So we're really excited about how he foresaw the challenges that were coming, and that's why we're in a unique space, in a unique position that we're in right now.
Okay, so you're saying are unique. Do you have any competition in your space, or are they doing other things with data?
Yeah, this is one of those vertical versus horizontal questions.
Yeah.
And so, if you think about any storage vendor or any we call them application compute, advanced analytics application vendor, they could try to build this type of distributed systems technology in between, or they could work with us on that. And so our whole thing is we do OEM our software to those companies. So, for example, Starburst is a Presto company. So they have the most advanced SQL engine out there, distributed open source, and they have enterprise versions. Well, they OEM our software combined with it because they don't have this layer in between, and they know that it works better together by having both of those things. So that's an example of the types of things we do. And I'd say, people can try to build it. That's always there, but we find that we have some of the best technology, and that's been proven.
So what do you do with like existing companies that have been in the data storage, like Teradata? Are you working with them or competing with them, or what?
So we work with companies like the Clouderas, which tended to be the data lake. And those are customers who use those types of environments, which is the Hadoop ecosystem. And so we look to partner and provide our software to them to the extent that they have multi-cloud solutions. With Teradata, that's a data warehouse. We tend to not connect to the data warehouse. We tend to connect more to what's called OLAP side of things, and work with the analytics systems there.
Okay. So what is the most important thing your customers should be asking of you when they consider using your services?
Yeah, they ask us, how will this get the data, get their insight to be faster, right? And how will this solve a lot of the, I'd say, a big set of data wrangling that they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
That data wrangling is things like something like copying the data and then maintaining another data set, right? And moving the data around, and then adding new applications to it. And so that is the thing that they ask us is, okay, if I put this new layer in, and yes, it's already available from some places that use it for one certain thing, well, by using it for everything, how does that change? And so the answer is it simplifies it greatly. And this kind of goes to some of the way that virtualization took place. So VMware used a similar approach in terms of it became a layer in front of the your computers and applications above it.
Okay. And I guess, being open source so you can try before you buy helps quite a bit too, so people can get their hands on it.
Yeah, we have both models where we let people try for free. We don't have to ask us. Then we have the enterprise versions that are free trials as well. And then when they want to buy, we let them buy on a pay-as-you-go consumption basis. So no big upfront contracts to purchase. And I'm a big believer, if you're working with cloud, this day and age, people would rather be more SaaS-like than have to make big decisions and commit to many months at a time upfront.
Yeah. So you've been through, like you said, several startups. What have you learned over your career that you do not want to ever repeat again? And what did you learn that you want to continue doing?
Yeah, because I've been doing startups for a while, and I've worked with lots of different people. I think the fit with people is a big one, right? And that tends to be even as much of I'd say a personality fit is kind of important. And that's one thing that I find has been important. With every company, it's always very stressful. So you want to know, like, you have some good fit around how decisions are made and how you work together and how you even deal with stress. All that is a factor in it. So part of my role is to make sure the teams are working well and that we're managing all that stuff, right? And managing the stress of the team so you don't get frozen by that type of thing, or you don't have a lot of conflict. So these are the things that I spend time thinking about, and I think that's consistently through the career, is that you need to have a good fit with the team and within team members. Now, that's not to say I'm not into diversity. I'm fully into that. I believe that's really important. But there are times where the fit is a key part as it relates to working with very key stakeholders.
Okay. So how large is your team at Luxio now?
Yeah, we're in the many dozens, 40-ish people growing to 80. And so we're in that scaling phase.
So are they all co-located out there in California, or are you kind of spread around?
We're mainly here in our offices in San Mateo, and so this is where our headquarters is. And we find that we're mainly here, and we have field offices for things like sales and support.
Sure. So with the team there in San Mateo, how I guess how much do you interact with everybody then? Are you like a hands-on guy, or you kind of letting everybody run, or what?
Yeah, I think I learned some of the some things by being at the coffee room and chatting with people and just hearing about what people are working on, and getting a sense for how things are going. I also am a big believer in communicating with the team, and so we do every other week a town hall.
Okay.
Ask me anything type of thing, and I share where we're going in terms of where the North Star is, where the hill is, and what the bigger vision of of enabling data-driven innovation. And so, yeah, I would say I'm pretty hands-on.
Okay. All right. So we could keep going on and on and on now, but we're going to run out of time. So I want to honor your day here. So how can people get in touch with you to learn more about Alluxio and you personally?
Yeah, great. Happy to share more and appreciate your time, Henry. So people can learn about our software through going to alluxio.io, and it's free to use. And then if people would like to reach out to me personally, be happy to. I'll answer anyone who emails me, Steven@alluxio.com. So it's STEVEN at alluxio.com, ALLUXIO.
Okay, great. Thank you. This was a fantastic stories that you've been telling me. I really like your whole focus on being able to move fast and talking to people and listening to the market so you react and actually build something that somebody wants. So thank you so much for your time today, Steven.
Thank you, and thanks for listening to all your listeners. We appreciate it. It's great to be here.